Hi, I'm Veronica and welcome to my channel. This is the fourth part of a four-part series, how to improve your rounded shoulder posture. And it's not so much about posture and keeping yourself rigidly straight. It's more about repatterning your nervous system so that it doesn't keep you in that contracted position in the front of the body. And you can do it both through somatic exercises, which I showed you in the first two parts, and also through restorative poses. And this is the part 2 of that. If you haven't done it yet, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. This particular restorative pose, which I'm going to show you now, is best done right after the position I showed you last time in the part 3. And the reason is that first your nervous system needs to feel safe, and it feels safe with what is familiar to it. So it's best if you first stay for some time in a rounded shape, and that's when later you can move on to that open shape and you can truly relax into it. You're going to need a couple of props for this particular practice. You can get yourself ready a big and thick blanket and perhaps a smaller blanket as well, a couple of cushions, and maybe you have a heavy cushion which could be quite grounding for you. Everything will be done in a very passive way, lying down on the ground. So let's set ourselves up for this posture. As I said before, you need quite a big and thick blanket first. And you want it to be narrow enough so that it's definitely more narrow than your shoulders. So that your shoulders can kind of drape down either side quite easily. And it has to be long enough so that it covers the entire spine from upwards from the sacrum, so all along the spine. You might also find it more comfortable, especially if you felt when you were lying on the ground that your chin was pointing up to the ceiling. It might be nicer to have something extra just underneath your head. Elevate your head a little bit higher than the rest of that structure. And you also might want to have something underneath your thighs if you decide to have your legs long. Otherwise, it creates a little bit too much tension in the back. And if you have something heavy, you can later place it over your belly. So once you've got your structure ready, you go just behind it so that you can rest your entire back along it. But the sit bones stay on the ground. If it's something too high, it might not feel comfortable for your lower back. That's why you're going for only a folded blanket and not a bolster. That sometimes you might find the poses like that. Usually it feels a little bit too much. And then you decide how much of that extra support you might need for the back of the head. But basically what you want to feel is that there is space for the for your shoulders to start falling to either side of you towards the floor. You could have your knees bent and feet on the mat, and that might be the most comfortable position. Or if you have your legs long, place one cushion underneath each thigh, not knee, but thigh. And if you need something to give you an extra sense of security and comfort, which will allow you to actually settle in this position that is quite open, and for anybody who struggled with some trauma, it might feel kind of too exposing, then it's great to have something over the belly, something heavy over the belly, and you might also cover yourself with a blanket. So once you've got all of that, and you know this is a comfortable position, then you can start settling yourself here. So you want to feel definitely that your arms feel supported enough from the ground, that your pelvis feels supported from the ground, that you have that nice, soft on one hand, but also very steady support all along your spine and also for your head. And you might start noticing that there are some parts of the body that don't feel quite so comfortable yet. So make sure that you are not rigid here in that stillness. It's not the kind of stillness that somebody told you, be still and don't you dare to move. It is stillness that is very restful, that is very comfortable. So if that requires some adjustments, or at some point you decide that you want to get rid of something heavy over your belly, or straighten your legs and have something underneath the thighs, remember you have those options. Sometimes having the arms out might not necessarily feel so familiar and so restful. But in this shape, actually, there is the highest chance you're gonna get that full opening, and not just along the collarbones, but also at the head of the shoulder. So, of course, if you feel much more comfortable having the hand somewhere on the body, you might try that, but know that this is automatically creating some of that rounded shape. And the first few breaths, they're here for you to start settling into this pose and thinking a little bit more. You are very welcome to keep your eyes open and observe the ceiling in a sort of unfocused gaze. If it feels quite comfortable and pleasant to have the eyes closed, feel free to close your eyes. It's up to you. And for a moment, you can focus your attention on your breath, allowing your body to sink a little bit deeper on each exhalation. So your focus is really on those points of contact between your body and the ground, and fully receiving that support of the ground, whether it's for your feet or legs, your pelvis, your forearms and hands. And allow yourself to sink fully into that soft support you have all along your spine and also underneath your head. So those are the points of support. And what you want to invite your body into is that process of surrendering to the gravity force, which gently and very gradually and steadily acts upon you if you do not contradict that force, pulling your shoulders down towards air. So there is nothing that you need to do, nothing that you want to change. You are in the moment, allowing this fundamental force to act upon you. Knowing that the spine has enough support and knowing that you are in a safe space where you can allow yourself to be maybe slightly more exposed, maybe more vulnerable. So if it feels a little bit weird in any sense to have that chest fully open, the belly exposed, notice how it would feel to cover yourself with a heavy, big blanket. Would that make any difference? Would that make you feel a little bit more covered and wrapped up? And you can ask yourself, is there any part of the body that feels a little bit alert, active, that could potentially have a little rest now? And be ready for answer no. It is possible that those patterns of holding are quite ingrained, and one invitation will not make that much of a difference. The first invitation. So there's nothing here that you can force or speed up. It is more about undoing, not doing, than anything else. And time is an absolutely necessary ingredient. Your nervous system does need time to receive those messages of safety and to start responding to them. You might notice that your breath changed ever since you came into this position for the first time. It's rhythm, and it's not because you tried to change it. It happened as a natural process. And in the same way, you might start noticing some first signs of softening. And they might be in your face and around the jaws, or eyebrows, or eyelids. They might be in the throat. They might be around the belly and groin. Maybe if you have your legs bent, you notice that you kept tensing your muscles in the legs, and actually you don't need to. If you find a position for them, they can be completely passive, resting just thanks to the tensegrity forces, one bone against the other, like a tent. And there might be moments where you feel some little urge to make some micro movements with your shoulders. As I said, feel free to make those little movements. There might be also moments where you feel like yawning or sighing. And those are little signs that your nervous system is switching to the rest and restore mode. the one that is necessary for to release any kind of tension coming from the alertness state. Mm. And just like with the pose we tried last week, there might be some emotion bubbling up coming from the fact that you are in this really open shape, exposed shape. It might expose some internal emotional vulnerability. And again, allow yourself to be vulnerable, to go through any emotion that wants to be expressed or released. So you're not searching for it. It's not that we are expecting any huge releases or any big things happening. Sometimes those shifts that happen with the nervous system can be super subtle. It might be that you suddenly feel or slowly feel more saliva in your mouth, or that your belly starts talking. It's a clear sign you're moving into that rest and digest mode. And you might find yourself some anchor that keeps you here and now. And good one to stay with is your breath. The breath has these two stages. The first one is a moment of vitality, a moment of expansion, filling yourself up with life force. That's what you might experience when you take an inhale. It's like a liveliness, it's expansive, it's spacious. And exhalation is a passive stage that encourages your body to sink more, to soften more. It's a restful stage. And again, nothing in particular you need to do. You can let your breath flow as it wants to and notice what happens in the body when you inhale and what is the experience of thinking when you exhale. At first, staying in stillness can feel very foreign. It might feel weird. It might not feel safe. That's why if you need to make some micro movements, some soothing micro movements at any stage, remember you can do it. Like touching all the fingers, thumb to all the fingertips, or very, very small, almost unnoticeable rock in the pelvis, or some almost unnoticeable movement within your shoulders. So remember, this is always available for you. If stillness doesn't feel completely comfortable or safe. And you're the one who decides whether this is still fully restful and comfortable pose for you. That is the purpose of this pose. And it still might be new or unknown and feel safe, feel okay. So remember about that. I definitely encourage you to stay here for as long as you wish, pausing the video, staying in silence. But if again silence especially in combination with stillness, feels um, not so comfortable for you. You can stay with me. Expansion on inhalation, softening and sinking on exhalation. And there is no particular time you are meant to stay here. So it's really up to observing your system's responses. And if you start seeing these little messages from your nervous system, like more saliva, your belly talking, or if you start feeling that this post is somehow complete for you, as if your body is giving you messages to get moving again, that's when you can start inviting little movements, micro movements, really taking your time. It might be a good idea to open your eyes and get a sense of the room in which you are, and maybe as you get that visual image, everything you might see with the corners of your eyes. At the same time, you still feel that support you have from underneath you. If you had something over your belly or chest, you can remove it first. And the best way to come out is to roll to the side. Roll to the side for a moment before you very gently push away that blanket from underneath you so that you can land directly on the ground, just like you did in the beginning. Land directly on the mat and notice how does it feel for you. How does that feel now, that direct contact with the ground? How your upper body, your shoulders, shoulder blades, your head rest on the ground? And it might feel quite different than when you began. Stay with the sensation for a moment. And then you can roll to the side again and slowly start making your way up to a seated position. And come to any comfortable seated position, doesn't really matter how you have your legs. Maybe you prefer even to stand, so that you can get an idea of how does it feel to have that pelvis now in a different relationship to gravity, and feel that support from underneath. Feel the whole back side of the body and front side of the body. And maybe some new sensations around your shoulders or neck or front of the chest, different from how you would usually see, without you trying to change anything. I hope you experience the difference in sensations around the shoulders, neck, front of the chest. You can let me know in the comments below how did it go for you. And if you would like to mm, get to know a little bit more how you can work with things such chronic pain or chronic anxiety, which are usually very interconnected, visit my website. I have some free materials there for you, www.withmeta.eu. You can also work with me on one-to-one basis. And this work involves not just doing some exercises mechanically or getting stuck onto one method, but really looking in a broad way into ways we can release the tension that often has to do also with your mental state, your history, and so on. So you can check that in the description below as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.